Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing The Time Meddler. Now this was voted on by my patrons and YouTube members for which first Doctor story I was going to rewatch. They went with The Time Meddler, which was great because it gave me an opportunity. One, this is only the second time I've ever seen the story. Two, it's the first time I've watched the Blu-ray release, which is right here out of camera range, of the story, because the first time I watched it, it was because a subscriber had sent me the DVD release. So it was nice to be able to watch it on the Blu-ray set for the first time. It's a good restoration. It was a fresh restoration. I know Dalek Invasion of Earth and Time Meddler both got from the ground up restorations done for the box set. And it looks really good. The colors, there's more of a contrast between the blacks and whites and less grays. It just seems to pop off the screen a little better. I think there might have been some scan lines I don't remember from the DVD version, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's just me seeing it when it's not really there. Like it's like I'm purposely looking for things that might be wrong. Because I know the Dalek Invasion of Earth Blu-ray one to me looked not as good as the DVD one, if that makes sense, because they looked like they'd added scan lines to it. So I'm not sure how much of that is just in my head, me looking for it. But the restoration did look good. I enjoyed it. The sound, at least on my 720p, at least a decade-old TV, it looked really good and sounded really good. The sound was really good. I am liking the performances from everyone. The main cast are putting in a good performance. The guest cast are putting in a good performance. Now, because some of the guest cast have smaller parts, but they're putting in a good performance. I like the guy who runs the village. He's doing a good job. His wife, the actress playing her, does a good job. The one villager that doesn't want to trust the doctor, who's very adamant about it, not trusting him, the one that gets injured later, he's doing good. The people doing the Vikings, they don't get a lot to do, the actual, especially even the main two Vikings, but they're fine. A lot of it, though, is really hinges on the main cast, who are fantastic, and Peter Buttersworth, who is, of course, playing the monk, who is amazing in the role. The story would not be as good if he wasn't so good in this role, but he does so much with his body language and especially his facial expressions. He reminds me a lot of Troughton in a way, about how Troughton can convey a lot with his face. So can Peter. He does a lot with his face throughout this story. And he adds a little humor to it. This story has a little vein of humor running through it that I really like in several different places. But especially when Peter's on the screen as the monk, when he's doing those different facial expressions. I especially like when he's reading the note from the doctor at the end and he's kind of chuckling to himself. But you can see him being a little worried and alarmed, and you see that kind of growing as he's reading the letter. He's doing all these little facial tics that are absolutely just amazing acting. So I can't praise Peter enough as the monk. He's fantastic in this and sells it. I love the fact that William Hartnell is very obviously on, well, I won't say very obviously, but if you're paying attention, you can tell William Hartnell is on holiday during episode 2 because the second Doctor is, I can't talk tonight. The Doctor is not in the second episode, but they film it well enough, and the way they have his voice coming through the door a couple times, it's not noticeable, and it doesn't detract from the story like it does in some stories, like Dalek Invasion of Earth, and especially 10th Planet, where it really hampers the story a bit. It doesn't here at all. It does not hamper the story a single bit. The way they did that is very effectively done. So kudos to them for that. I like the set design. The location work looks good. The little camp where the villagers stay, it looks really nice, even though it's obviously studio. The entrance to the monastery where the front door is looks really good. The inside of the monastery looks good. I really enjoyed the set design. I tend to love this era of Doctor Who because it very much is done like a teleplay, like a live play, basically. And I like that. I kind of like that in television. So that's a lot of fun. I enjoy the story of the monk being kind of the opposite of the Doctor, who doesn't want to mess with history, especially at this point with the monk meddling. It's why it's called the meddling monk. It's weird to try to imagine watching this episode when it first aired, because I mentally try to go into this episode with the mindset of not having seen anything past this episode, and wonder what, you know, people at the time in 1964 or 5 or whenever the time Meddler aired must have thought as this episode was progressing, because it's different from any other Doctor Who episode before it. It's the first kind of pseudo-historical with an alien influence outside of the Doctor and the TARDIS and Susan, etc. That must have been interesting, because for most people today, you're approaching the Time Meddler with the knowledge of all the stuff that's come after it, no matter when you picked up on Doctor Who, whether you started with the 3rd Doctor, the 4th Doctor, the 6th Doctor, 7th Doctor, or if you started with the modern series. At some point, you probably started on Doctor Who at a later point. And so you're coming into the Time Meddler with the foreknowledge of all of the stuff that happened afterwards. So trying to approach this episode without that, to kind of turn that off and experience the episode for the first time without all of that knowledge is interesting, because it makes me kind of wonder what people thought at the time, because there's kind of a mystery of what's going on in the Time Meddler, because you're supposed to be in like the 10th century or 11th century, like 1096 or something like that. But then there's those little things going on, like finding the watch, and the monk obviously being the one who lost the watch, the monk listening in as the Doctor talks about the TARDIS. So you know there's something with the monk you can't quite put your finger on. And then, of course, the cliffhanger to episode 1, when the Doctor finds the player machine playing the Gregorian chant with the monks. And, of course, him, you know, being smug about it. Because I think he realized from the sound when he was in the village that something sounded off, that it didn't sound like a live recording. There is that part where it kind of, and the Doctor catches it, and he's like, I gotta go check out this monastery. This isn't right. And then, of course, the cliffhanger with the trapdoor falling down and the monk laughing at him. That's a great cliffhanger, by the way. So you get these little hints that things aren't the way they're supposed to be. We see the monk using binoculars. We see him making a list about the things he wants to do. Cooking the Doctor breakfast with a toaster. And so, you know, this wondering of what is going on. Are they in the past? Are they not in the past? Is it a fake out? Is it another planet? What is going on? And then the reveal at the end of episode 3 that the monk is also one of the Doctor's people, because of course they haven't been called Time Lords yet, with Vicky and Steven stumbling into the monk's TARDIS. That's got to be one of the best cliffhangers in the show's history, especially at the time, since this was the first time we met someone from the Doctor's race outside of the Doctor and Susan, and especially the first time we ever had someone from the Doctor's race as one of the antagonists of the story, and the first time we'd ever seen a different TARDIS. So that cliffhanger of them going in and the monk's got a TARDIS. Amazing cliffhanger. That must have blown people's mind at the time. I love when the Doctor gets the drop on the monk in episode 3 a couple times. First with the stick and then with the sword. I love how overconfident, well, I won't say overconfident, but full of confidence Hartnell is there. It's like Hartnell's just having fun playing this part right here. When he's being all smug with the monk. I thought you were gone. Oh, did you? Did you now? Well, I'm a very curious fellow. Yes, very curious indeed. I love the first Doctor there. Just that smugness on his face. Like, yes, I believe I've got you. I believe I've got you cornered here, dear boy. I love that. And then he does it again when he gets the sword on him later, right at the end. Tell me more about these brush fires, you say. These beacon fires. I love the way Hartnell plays that scene. And William Hartnell and Peter Buttersworth play off each other really well in those scenes. I really enjoy it. There's a little bit of humor in their conversations, which I like. I do enjoy that a lot. I love when the Doctor is trying to sabotage the monk's TARDIS at the end. And the Doctor realizes how dangerous what he's doing is, and he's trying to get Stephen and Vicky to get out of the TARDIS. He's like, don't make a sound, don't bump anything, walk back slowly, the slightest vibration can make this go wrong. And Steven's trying to argue with him, and then he looks up at Steven and he just looks at him and points like, because he'd already told him to get out of the TARDIS. He's like, I just love the way Hartnell does that. Like, do you mind? I love that. It's interesting how they replaced the missing footage. I mean, you could tell it's the scene where they did, where they reshot the 12 seconds, but they did it where you're just seeing the bodies getting stabbed. But it fits in with how you could have shot it at the time, not showing the faces and just showing someone pull out a knife and stab. It works really well. I think it's one of those things where if you didn't know it was replaced footage, you wouldn't know it was replaced footage. And it's really neat to see it in there. I really enjoyed the time. It's so much fun. Like I watched all 4 episodes back to back. I was having such a ball with it. The performances, the set, the writing, so many first in the story, being the first pseudo-historical and all, the first antagonist that's basically a Time Lord. And I just love Peter's performance. And him and Hartnell just go so well together. So I really found this story very enjoyable. I wonder what happened to the other monks, the other Vikings who had landed. Like the one Viking who's kind of giving orders at the beginning. We never really see him again, but the guy playing him has this very commanding voice, this deep voice that I really liked. Yeah, I really liked it. It's a good story. The Time Meddler, what do you think of it? Comment down below and let me know. Have you seen the Blu-ray restoration of it? How much do you like it over the original DVD release? Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have YouTube memberships available as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.